Spanglish seminar. My path to getting to this topic is I began to work in the oil and gas company after doing sociology, and I was very interested in changes in the industry. And the main change that industry can make is going to sustainability practices. So that's why I began to work on environmental issues and social issues. And mining is the main industry in Chile, so it's like the best place to work with this subject. So that's the reason it's not. It wasn't environmental activism, or it was like the challenge of changing and the complexity of changing that appeals. So for those who doesn't know me, I'm doing this internship for 3 months, and I'm doing some field work here for my PhD, and I'm very lucky to be working with Joanne in a project, doing some papers and things like that. So this is an overview of my PhD project. It is to get a lot of samples of social responsibility initiatives. I'm working with 23 cases. If someone is interested in some of these mine sites, it will be great to talk about. I've been working with 5 years period of sustainability reports of all those mines. And the sample is very rare. If you can see, there are a lot of Chilean mines, but it is not a nationalist preference. It is because in Chile there are the most sustainability reports from 4 mining sites. A lot of mining companies have these corporate reports with no distinction in territory or product, just one big report. And so for me that's an abstraction. It doesn't say anything about what is going on with communities or the environment. There is another level of report. It's like from some territory, so they put 4 or 5 mine sites and their social responsibility initiatives. I consider that, and other sustainability reports for each mine. So that the two, those two are what makes my sample. There is a lot of copper, large-scale copper mining in the world, but just these ones have sustainability reports with more detail on what they are doing in the territory. And what I want to talk to you today is about a finding during my fieldwork in Chile. I was in the first region, the north of Chile. That's the desert. There you have the map, if you want, so you can keep it in mind. And that's the thing I love of doing research, the unexpected. I was looking for the company's strategies, but what I got was the community's strategies. I interviewed the leaders of these 4 communities, each community with a specific environmental impact. Kipisca with an heritage damage and solid waste impact, Mamiña with a mining camp, and Arca with dust impact, and Cantosa with water concepts. All these communities, they are in the desert, but they have agriculture. It's very amazing. And as you can see here, they have 30 years of relationship with the mine. The first moment was the exploration and construction, and then the operation. So a lot of things happen in 30 years. The learning curve, from the community's experience in their relationship with the mining company. So sometimes they have conflicts, they solve their conflicts, they lost their trust, they try to rebuild the trust. Sometimes the communities feel that the promises are not accomplished. And there is an important thing. People from the company changes all the time. The managers changes. They begin all over to start again the relationship with the community, but the community is always the same people. So they have all the history in their minds, and they gain experience. And you can have two opposite effects. That's what I saw in the field. Learn hopelessness. It's like this one word, or capability building. So we are learning to better manage this relationship. The case of learned hopelessness is very specific in here. It's Parca, is the second one there. And this leadership, this leader of the community said to me, Parca means death. But our name before was Palca. It doesn't explain me when there was this name change. But it says Palca was the name before, and it meant where the roads meet. But right now we are Parca. It's dead. We have here for 5 or 10 more years because the agriculture is not working because of the dusting. So this is a very strong case of the learned hopelessness. And there is some things that help that too, and we will see it. The experience about the community performance too. What wrong decisions have we made? Or the internal conflicts. There is a lot of organizations in these very small communities, like 20 organizations in 30 people communities. It's like, really. And so it's very difficult to have all these organizations aligned. Yeah. And they learn also with their successful strategies. So, yeah, that's it. But the experience is not only by their own experience, but the experience of other communities. Like, we don't want what happened to them happening to us. It's like, for instance, Mamiña, that the mining camp, they said that's how Calama, another big mining town, a very known mining town in Chile, began. So let's get our territory recovered. We don't want to get that way. So leadership is another thing. It's been developed in these 30 years. So it's very clear that it's necessary to change from a passive position to an active position. But sometimes the problem is an excessive amount of leaders. Everybody wants to be leader. So the recognition of one leader, a charismatic leader, is one step. Someone who said, let's have our development in our hands, for instance. But the institutionalization of leadership in a bureaucratic way is much more stable. So if they get very well organized, they can have a better organization, a better way to have this dialogue with the mining companies, but not only the mining companies, it's the government too. It's not just one stakeholder. The lack of leadership seems to reproduce a dependency relationship. It's like, it's what I saw in Parca. Migration, and it's not really migration, that's a specificity of these communities. I took there the coast, and this is the big city, and this is the desert, the altiplano, and then Bolivia. So these people are used to move in different ecological levels. It's not that they are changing where they are living, it's just that they temporarily move in the territory. It's their economy based in that sense. For instance, they say this is a historical thing. In the winter, we were in the valley with doing I don't know what, and then we went to Bolivia to look after another things, you know. And so they are used to move. So Iquique, that the big city, is now some kind of new ecological level. That's it. They are not migrating really into the city forever, but it is now the place where they can work and where they can deploy their strategies, especially with the government, to protect their territory. And a very good example was where I did the interviews. Two of the interviews I did in indigenous communities' offices. So each community has, or not each, but at least two communities have an office in the city. So they get together in there and with all the people that belongs to that community, and they're working in the city, etc. Another one, I did it between the city and the town. It was a very fun experience in the car, trying to record everything. And the fourth one was made in the town, where the leader of the community lives. And this is again the case of Park. And when I said to this leader, but why you're not doing some strategies like these other communities? You know, we are just here. We are not moving. He talked about migration in a negative sense. It's like we are not getting anywhere. Oh, it wasn't this video. And professionalization is the last thing. I mean, experience is one of the sources. Again, these people have been living here for 30 years, so they've been forced to develop some competencies. Laws, institutional procedures, and technical and scientific data are very familiar to them right now. And this is like the second generation. The first generation were the grandparents. They said to me, they didn't know, what is this? A mining company, a big company getting here. They didn't know how to negotiate anything. They did some agreements without signing anything, just by word. So there is a lot of changes between the first generation and the second generation. And it's based by the experience. And some of them have been very involved in politics too. So two of the leaders of these communities are very active in politics, in parties, and trying to have a representation in the formal politics. And the third generation has high education. They go to the university. They study social sciences, laws, anthropology, sociology, but also technical knowledge. For instance, they have some people with chemical analysts, for instance. This is very important. We are not saying that these people are studying to defend the community and the territory. They are studying these things, and some of them prefer to work in the mining company, like anyone else, and other people prefer to work with the community in terms of helping to have a same level of conversation and have a same language. So all these things that have been happening in these 30 years have affected how these communities interact with mining companies, not only with mining companies, but essentially. And I organized it in these 5 strategies. Of course, they didn't talk to me in that terms. It's like I translated to a management language. But it is interesting to reverse the land. You know, they do have these strategies, although they maybe don't think of them as in that words. So the first one organization they are doing. So one of these communities are creating committees, but it's not the committee that the mining company come to the community and said, okay, let's have this mesas de diálogo. There is this own committees saying, we want to know as a community, what do we want in environmental issues, infrastructure, education, heritage, etc., because we want to say how our community should be. No? And it's very important, these committees, because they're setting what are the limits they're accepting in the relation with the mining. So we may accept A, B, but C we won't accept that. You know? But they know already. They have settled their limits. Another example from another community is a technical corporation. This is the people from Tarapaca. They have a very complicated conflict with the mine because of water. And the solution was that the mining company compensate with some funds to the community, and this leader said to me, they said to us, we may have some consultancy or technical groups working with you, but they say that's not what we need. We need to have a technical corporation that organize what we want to do in the next 20 years, and we want to have our own technical group of experts to assess that everything is going okay, because now they're controlling the water consumption in the community. And it's very interesting because they have a manager, they do this plan for the year, and the committee, the main committee, it has 2 members of the communities, 2 members of the mining company, and 1 member of the government. So all the stakeholders are organized in this technical corporation. But the planning is from the communities. What we want to do, these 20 years that we have these funds, thinking on the next 50 years, and Tarapaca has like 20 people. So, and you wonder, why are you doing this, really? And they say to me, we are just next to Bolivia, and they're working with quinoa. They're producing a lot of quinoa. And we have this town in Bolivia, really next to us, like 5 kilometers. They're working with the quinoa, and they have like 200 people there because there is work there. And they have kids going to school and everything. We have the same potential, but we need to settle the conditions to have the possibilities to work there. And also, all people see their future living there. You know, when they get old, that's the place where they're going to live. So they're taking care of that place. Multi-community organization is another thing, and I will answer the question, at least I think 2 questions there. This is because of the recognition of the general impact of mining in one territory. So this is not because of a new copper mine, it is because of geothermal project. And they knew that it may have an impact with a lot of communities. So they're working together. And so these kind of things are not used only with mining companies, but other, it's mining anyway, geothermal, it's mining. Yeah. But it's interesting that it's an energy project. And you know, in Chile, everybody says that everything is going very well in the mining industry, but there are a lot of conflicts in energy projects that are supplying the mining industry. So this is an interesting thing to observe in Chile. And there is a transition too, in the cases where the organization that the community have been using is not working, so they begin a reflection process to change how they are organizing. So the committee is like an horizontal organization with a charismatic leader pushing the committees to be working and in a very participative way, but it's like very participative, but with one strong leadership. The second one is a hierarchical structure, but with a bureaucratic leadership. And the last one is very horizontal too, but with some kind of leader committee of each community involved. Organizational things. The mining relations team, of course they don't call it that way. But as well as mining companies use anthropologists, communities included in their teams lawyers and technical expertise. They may be volunteers or paid, but they are there. Or they can be members of the communities, like this third generation, more educated. So the lawyers, right now in these communities, are all the time, in every meeting, no matter what. Maybe it could be a very small thing, but they want their lawyer there. And the technical expertise helps to translate the technical reports delivered by the mining companies and help them to make their own assessment on the environmental impacts. Stakeholder management. So the government is not an ally because they feel they help the mining industry, but they don't try to do then a political alliance, but they do some administrative pressure. So every time they think something is going on, it's not well, they go to all services involved, environmental services, I don't know, services, sections, or heritage, but they go to every service at national and regional level to push to have their reports, technical reports of each service. So it's like they're forced to have a position, a technical position. Oh. And with the mining companies, I think what they are doing is the institutionalization of meetings in terms of timings and contents. For instance, Kibista, they signed this protocol with the company because the company has expansion plans. So they begin to do some exploration. But to do the exploration, they don't have to consult the indigenous communities. They just have a declaration of the impact. And the communities are not involved. They're involved when to the next step. This community saw that it wasn't correct, so they tried to make an agreement with the mining company in terms of saying each time you're going to have some new exploration in the territory, you may tell us. You may tell us. Tell us. And we want to know what is happening in our territory. So they set these meetings every 3 months where they get informed from the mining plans of exploration. And yeah. And the community with the technical preparation has their meetings and the content of the meetings very well settled because they have this annual planning for the year and they have to control the planning. And in terms of risk management, this is a key issue because if they have the the information in the right time. They have time to react, if they have to react, or they can decide if they have to react or not. You know? It's like having time before things are already done. That's the main thing of that. And as the communities move a lot in all this territory, they have the potential of knowing very quickly if something is happening. And they also know that all the territory is compromised for mining activities, so everywhere is a potential new spot for mining. So they just have to be alert everywhere at any time. And finally, the intervention mechanism. So there is legal actions, but the main tool for the indigenous communities is the agreement of the OIT, it's the International Labour Organization. So they have the right to be consulted every time the territory will be disrupted. So that's the main tool they have, and they can go to trial with this agreement. And also the complete understanding of law and procedures. They're really well informed, you know. They are very prepared in terms of law. And Chile is a very, it's a very lawful respect, you know, law is very important there. So this is the main mechanism for the communities there. Communicational actions. The communities know, of course, that reputation is important to many companies. So any communication in the media, national or international, it's an important thing. Okay. And of course, this is the most known because you can see it in the news every time indigenous communities or communities are blocking a road in different countries. But this is not the ideal for communities, of course. So I think this is the last mechanism they would like to use. To get the protocol that I told you before. So these communities say to the mining company, let's sign an agreement on how you're going to do the explorations in the territory. Because they had already the experience that doing exploration, they did the heritage damage. So let's work together right now before a new heritage damage can occur. And they didn't explain me the details, but they say to me, we paralyzed the explorations. I don't know how they did it, but they say to me, we paralyzed the explorations until we get the agreement. It takes us 2 months, and now we have the protocol. And of course, this is not a protocol that is not an obligation, a formal obligation. But if they don't accomplish the protocol, we will prepare ourselves to get to the legal mechanism we can use when the next step will come. So it's this protocol in this sense helps, or it's stage before, on how the relationship will continue. So the conclusions. As well as mining companies develop community relations as a mechanism to engage and manage their relationship with key stakeholders groups and protect their business interests, you can switch and use it in the same terms to communities that may develop these mining relations to protect their community interests. engaging and managing their relationship with stakeholder groups and protecting their territory. But these strategies can be generalized. They depend on the context. As I told before, these strategies are the result of 30 years of relationship with those communities and the mining company. So I suppose every community with a mining company next to them have the potential to develop, or may have already developed, their own mining relation strategies, considering their characteristics